The sun was setting over the wide plains of Montana, painting the sky with shades of crimson and gold, when 19-year-old Emily Ray tightened the last knot on the fence that circled her family's old ranch. The Ray Ranch had been standing for 3 generations, built by her grandfather's bare hands, saved by her father's sweat, and loved by Emily more than her own life. The barn smelled of hay and horses, the fields glowed under the last light of the day, and somewhere in the distance she could hear the soft hum of a jet tearing across the clouds. That was her husband, Captain Aidan Ray, a former Air Force pilot who had just been deployed overseas. Emily always looked up when she heard that sound, smiling through her tears, whispering, "Come home safe." But that evening the air was heavy, as if the wind carried a warning she didn't yet understand. When she turned back toward the house, she saw 3 black trucks pulling up the dusty road, their tires crunching against the gravel like thunder. Men in dark jackets stepped out, faces cold, eyes full of something darker than hate. They weren't strangers. They were from the neighboring land owned by the Cross family, a wealthy and ruthless clan that had been trying to buy the Ray Ranch for years. Emily's father had refused every offer, saying, "This land carries our name and our blood. No money in this world can buy that." But the Cross family didn't believe in no. Emily froze as the men approached, torches flickering in their hands even though the sun hadn't fully set. Her father, Jacob Ray, came out with his old shotgun, his voice steady despite the shaking of his hands. "You boys best turn around," he warned. "You got no right to be here." But the man in front, Marcus Cross, smirked. The kind of smirk that said he already owned everything he touched. "You should have sold when you had the chance, old man," he said. "Now you'll learn what happens to people who stand in the way of progress." Emily's mother, June, stepped out behind her husband, holding Emily's younger brother, Sam, who was just 10 years old. The moment stretched, the wind stopped, the horses went silent, and the smell of gasoline filled the air. And then, with one flick of Marcus's wrist, the torch flew. It landed against the barn wall, the dry wood catching like paper. Flames leapt high, roaring like demons freed from hell. Emily screamed, running toward the barn, trying to release the horses, but her father grabbed her arm and shouted, "No, Emily, get back." The fire spread faster than anything she'd ever seen, racing through the hay and across the field. The sky turned orange and black as smoke choked the air. Her mother's voice echoed, crying for Sam, crying for help, but the men just stood there watching everything the Ray family had ever built burn to ash. Emily fell to her knees as the roof collapsed, sparks flying around her like falling stars. She could feel the heat on her skin, the pain cutting deep into her heart as her home crumbled before her eyes. The Cross men climbed back into their trucks, laughing, leaving behind a family broken and a ranch turned to cinders. Hours later, the flames had turned to smoldering embers, the air heavy with the smell of death and despair. Emily crawled through the ashes, her fingers bleeding, searching for her family. She found her father lying near the well, his body burned, his voice barely a whisper. "Don't cry, Em," he said. You hold on, Aidan will come." Those were his last words. By the time the firefighters arrived, it was too late. The Ray Ranch was gone, the land that had been her life gone, her parents gone, her brother gone, and Emily, covered in soot and tears, stared into the horizon, numb and hollow as the rising sun broke over the blackened earth. She didn't scream anymore. She didn't move. She just whispered her husband's name, over and over again. Aidan, miles away, high above the clouds, Captain Aidan Ray sat in the cockpit of his fighter jet, returning from a mission he'd been pulled from early. His radio had picked up an emergency transmission. The Ray Ranch was on fire. The moment he heard it, his heart went cold. He broke formation, ignoring orders, his hands gripping the controls so tightly his knuckles turned white. "Hold on, Emily," he said under his breath. "I'm coming." The jet tore through the sky, faster than it ever had before. The roar echoed across the plains like thunder announcing a storm. Emily lifted her head when she heard it, that familiar, powerful sound slicing through the morning air. Her heart pounded. She looked up and saw the silver wings of the jet glinting in the sunlight, circling above the smoking ruins of her home. She fell to her knees again, this time not from despair, but from something else. Hope. The jet came lower, and she could almost see him through the glass, scanning the ground. Aidan saw the fire, the destruction, and then her small figure amid the ashes. The moment he did, something inside him snapped. He pulled the jet into a steep climb, his jaw clenched, his eyes burning with tears and rage. "They'll pay," he whispered. "I swear to God they'll pay." The radio crackled with the voice of his commanding officer, shouting at him to stand down, to return to base. But Aiden wasn't listening. He wasn't a soldier right now. He was a husband, a protector, a man whose world had just been set on fire. Emily stood up, her hair tangled, her face streaked with ash and tears, watching the sky as Aiden's jet disappeared into the distance. She didn't know what he was going to do. She just knew he wasn't going to let this end here. Behind her, the last flames of the ranch hissed out, smoke curling into the sky like a dark promise. The land was quiet again, but it was not at peace. Somewhere beyond the hills, the Cross family celebrated, toasting their victory. But what they didn't know, what they couldn't even imagine, was that a storm was coming for them. Not a storm of fire, but of steel, speed, and vengeance. And it had a name: Captain Aiden Ray. As the sound of his jet echoed faintly over the horizon, Emily whispered through cracked lips, "They thought they burned our home, but they just lit the fire inside us." And right there, among the ruins of everything she loved, the farm girl who had lost everything stood up and began to rise again.